Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to analyze the live price action for EU and DXY to see what opportunities there may be today. You're going to see my strategy and my technical analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. Right, just before we start on the charts, I'm going to quickly head over to Forex Factory just to give you the obvious heads up. It is European bank holidays in the UK, France, Germany, Italy, as you can see here. Right, for Monday the 1st of April. Not a holiday in the US, which is why there is some news later on for PMI. So the reason I'm telling you this is because price may not move with much volatility or as expected in terms of my strategy on days like this, especially a bank holiday and high impact news. So just a heads up, but we're going to analyze the charts either way. So let's start off here on the daily. Right, what do we see on the daily? Obviously, price has been bearish since mitigating this area. On Friday, we closed out as a bullish doji. Pretty normal for a Friday to pretty much close as a doji to end the week. So not much to be read from that. However, price obviously took some sell side liquidity from these lows, and we closed out, with a sort of indecisive doji, having done a bullish and bearish day and then closing out just above the open. We have our previous daily high and previous daily low, which is also our previous weekly low. So then inversely on DXY below here, we have our previous daily high and previous weekly high and our previous daily low. There is a day missing in the middle here because this exchange was shut. So price, there was no updates at all for DXY on the Friday. As you can see, we had our bearish direction, bearish momentum, and we had our bullish direction on DXY. Other than that, you can see we've got this imbalance here above price on EU. So let's go down to the 4 hour and see what the intradays show us. So I'm going to start us off on 4 hour zoomed out just to point out some things over to the left. As you can see, we've got this 4 hour fair value gap, which we filled on the Friday. So we filled that 4 hour fair value gap. We're sort of in this 4 hour order block, but either way, POY at this area is filled. And on DXY, obviously we had swept some buy side liquidity from this area, and we've got our SMC divergence because we've got high low and high high on DXY. So you can see relative to this point here and here, they're both moving in the same direction, which is SMC divergence, which may indicate some strength from EU. Below on EU, you can see I've drawn out this liquidity target here because that is the extreme low there. And that would be after this low here, the next point of structural liquidity for price to target, in my opinion. So zooming back in on more recent price, as I said on the daily, obviously we've got our bearish direction. We've got this new leg, we pulled back to this confluence area here, and we've created since this new bearish leg, right, with a lower high, lower low down into the POY that I mentioned, and it's the same. And it's the same on DXY. We had our higher high, higher low, and we've made a high high here, albeit we didn't close out above it. So with this gap in price here, it's a bit more difficult to read at the moment, so we may need to ignore DXY for this price action here. But from these lows, we've had some sort of bullish reaction. We'll see that maybe more clearly on the 1 hour time frame, but we've had a bit of a bullish reaction from there and pulled back. Since then, of course, we've been correctively pulling back towards this 4 hour imbalance that was created, and we've just about filled that nearly today. So let's go down to the 1 hour and see what that shows. So again, on the 1 hour, we have a clear bearish leg here that we've created, which made us mitigate that 4 hour POY. We pulled back to more of a premium area here. There's no POY with imbalance, but we've pulled back to the premium, and we had rejected that area, causing this corrective pullback back into the discount. Again, this is where the price action is missing from DXY. So if the price action was here, we don't know whether DXY would have made a higher high, right? So at the moment, you could say there's an SMC divergence, but we don't have the price action, so I don't really want to commit to that. But we have the SMC divergence potentially, where we have this lower low, lower low here, and then we have this higher high, and then it could potentially be the lower high on this side here. So that would indicate weakness on DXY, and we would presume that this would be a grab of liquidity, and the SMC on a higher time frame, which is already indicating that we possibly have some strength on EU anyway. So due to our lack of POYs here, and this POY here on the 1 hour wasn't quite mitigated, we took the 4 hour fair value gap and continued the trend. Price may be looking for some sort of buy side liquidity above here or here before it may continue with that trend. So it's just something to be aware of. We obviously have this 1 hour imbalance below price where the 4 hour imbalance was. So price may reach down further into that as well before going bullish and taking this. This is a nice sort of trend line of buy side liquidity here. This is very corrective. This is the only POY I have in sight. So it may be a good place to long from. We'll see what price action does. But to continue with the trend, obviously, DXY would want to head for its highs. So we'll see if we need some more sell side liquidity first on DXY and buy side liquidity on EU. But the structure is still intact as a bearish structure. So we'll see how price holds at this area, and if internally we start to make those higher highs and seek out the buy side liquidity and take this trend line from these highs. So let's go to the 15-minute and see if there's any opportunities for today. So again, as a reminder, it's the bank holiday. Not sure how price is going to behave, but you can see we had this build up of buy side liquidity here because we've been making these lower lows, lower highs, but it's been rather corrective. There's been no momentum to continue with the trend. There is this 1 hour POI here. So what I would like to see for potential longs would be for price to come down, take these relative equal lows here. So we've got Asia low and London low, right? Well, London so far. If price comes down, takes that buy side liquidity into a 1 hour POI and possibly either creates a structure and then breaks above it. So we have our break of structure here, and then we can pull back to our lower time frame POI to aim for the Asia highs or previous daily high as buy side liquidity. So how that would look in terms of my strategy would be this. We would have our internal sweep here. So that would be sell side liquidity. Internally, we'd have a 1 hour POI. So like I said, we may create structure here, or from taking this sell side liquidity and then going into this POI, we may just break structure from there. And then we can have our pullback, right? But let's say this first scenario happens. We'd have our order block here, and this would be our inducement for our pullback. We'd have our break of structure here, and then we'd have our order set here to aim for above, right? So we could be aiming for Asia high or previous daily high. So that's what my order would look like. Obviously for myself, I would just set it for 3%, 3.5% to the recent high. Nice easy liquidity target, and go from there. It is obviously against trend, but we'd be waiting for this price action for it to confirm that this area looks like it's going to hold. Now on the other side, if we're going to look for shorts to continue with trend, preferably price, even as it's going now, we've taken some buy side liquidity here from the internal structure, but it's not enough yet to break the lows. So maybe if price were to take this high here, this previous high, then break structure and then pull back to our lower time frame POI, we could then continue with the trend. However, the negative would be this 1 hour imbalance here and the internal sell side liquidity, but that's why we would need big momentum and a corrective pullback. So as before, this would be our inducement around this area. We would have our break of structure below here. We would have our sweep of internal buy side liquidity here. And then we would have our lower time frame POI here to set our order from. Stop loss just above the high, and you could aim for the most recent low or all the way to the previous daily low. That's how my order would look exactly. Of course, we could be more patient if we don't get this reaction from here. Take the high, buy side liquidity, create structure, break that structure, get our pullback to our POI and continue lower with the trend. Now, this high here would be our buy side liquidity. So that would be where my X would be. This would be the internal structure that we break. This would be our inducement in the pullback to show our corrective pullback. And then we would have our lower time frame order block from here. Stop loss just above the highs to trade down to wherever our targets are, recent low, London lows, or previous daily low, previous weekly low. So I wouldn't aim that far, my order would be around here, but that's the opportunities that I see. Of course, price is now moving with bullish momentum, left those lows behind. So we'll see what price does around this area, or this area here as well, because there's some more relative equal highs. What we're waiting for is structure to be created and shift, and then it will give us a direction to hopefully trade from. But as I said, we have high impact news with PMI, and we also have bank holidays, so I don't expect the price to move that well, but we'll see what happens. So I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.